What showed you that some people are wolves in sheep's clothing? I was driving home from my janitor shift when CPS called me. Mr. Williams, we've received a formal complaint about severe neglect of your daughter Sadie. A caseworker is at your home now. My hand started shaking so bad I had to pull over. I literally floored it the rest of the way home and found a woman in a blazer sitting in my living room with Sadie. My 7-year-old was crying and kept asking if she did something wrong. Through the window, I saw Mrs. Johnson, our neighbor, watching from her porch with a worried expression. I rushed over to Sadie and she buried her face in my work uniform. The CPS worker introduced herself as Janet and started listing off accusations about Sadie being chronically underdressed and showing signs of neglect. She kept looking at Sadie's purple dress, which was faded but clean, and Sadie loved it. That's when my late wife's parents showed up. Richard and Carol walked in like they owned the place. They'd been notified about the investigation. Richard pulled out his phone showing photos of Sadie at school with circles around her clothing compared to other kids. Carol suggested Sadie stay with them temporarily while I got back on my feet. The custody hearing happened 2 weeks later. Sadie sat in the witness chair with her feet dangling. I love my daddy, she told the judge. My clothes are special because they were mommy's. Daddy washes them every week and I don't want new ones. But the judge just nodded absently. When he granted temporary custody to Richard and Carol, I felt my legs go weak. Sadie started screaming for me, but the bailiff held her back. The supervised visits were torture, 2 hours weekly in a sterile room. Sadie would cling to me whispering she wanted to go home. She'd stopped eating at her grandparents' house and lost 5 pounds. 3 weeks and Mrs. Smith pulled me aside. She'd been Sadie's teacher since kindergarten and lost her own mother young. She'd been documenting everything. Sadie hasn't spoken in class for a week, she said, showing me her notes. The school psychologist, Dr. Morgan, confirmed severe regression. They recommended increased visitation, but Richard and Carol pushed back. They claimed I was stuck in grief and couldn't properly parent. He's confusing the child by not moving on, Carol told the judge. They offered to let me see Sadie monthly if I agreed to permanent guardianship. I stood up in court and said, no, my daughter needs me, and I won't abandon her. They filed for permanent guardianship anyway, citing ongoing neglect. Responses. Things got really bad after that. Parents at grief support started avoiding me. Someone left a note on my car saying some fathers just can't do it alone. My boss threatened to fire me for missing shifts. Sadie completely stopped talking during visits and would just hold my hand with tears rolling down her face. Richard and Carol found her sleeping in their closet. She says it smells like her daddy's work clothes, Carol reported with disgust. Sadie refused wearing any designer clothes they bought. She'd only put on her 3 faded dresses. The supervisor noted Sadie had become essentially nonverbal, except when visits ended. Mrs. Johnson had been watching our family since my wife died. The retired teacher started taking notes after the CPS visit. When she heard about Sadie's condition, she knew she had to act. She came to me with documentation spanning 2 years. More importantly, she contacted a child advocacy group. When they reviewed the case, they noticed Richard and Carol's lawyer's name kept appearing in similar situations. They discovered he specialized in these cases. He'd done this to 4 other widowed fathers using the same playbook about neglect. Then Richard and Carol made their play. They offered a compromise where they'd raise Sadie, but I could visit weekly unsupervised. Think about what's best for her, Richard said. We can give her everything. I sat in my car after Sadie had grabbed the door frame, screaming, please, Daddy, don't leave me. Her fingernails left marks in the wood. I stared at those marks and almost called to accept. Maybe she deserved better than a father working 2 jobs. But Mrs. Johnson kept digging. She'd found footage of Richard and Carol visiting 6 months before any complaint. Sadie was laughing in her faded purple dress, perfectly happy. The advocacy group subpoenaed their communications. The emails were damning. They'd been planning since the funeral. We need to save Sadie from that man, Carol wrote. He killed our daughter by making her work. Now he's neglecting our granddaughter. They'd waited to strike. The emergency hearing felt different. The judge actually looked at evidence this time. He watched videos of Sadie before separation, clearly thriving. Her drawings from that time showed rainbows. The ones from the grandparents' house were black scribbles. He reversed custody immediately. Richard and Carol got supervised visits only. CPS launched an investigation. The lawyer faced ethics violations. It took months for Sadie to recover. She slowly started talking about mommy again. The bedwetting stopped. The school offered free aftercare. Even Richard and Carol eventually admitted they'd been wrong. Last week, Sadie drew a picture of us with her mother as an angel watching over. She presented it to her class. My daddy saved me, she told them. She still wears that purple dress twice a week, and I'll never make her stop.